And welcome to the Libertarian Affiliate Spotlight, a production of the Libertarian Party Affiliate Support Committee, Valerie Sarwak Chair, and of course, the Libertarian National Committee, Joe Bishop Henchman Chair. As always, John Gapso on the big board. And of course, I'm your host, Pat Ford, the proud chair of the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island. So we like to announce all our shows. We just like to review why we're here. We're here to discuss and promote best practices of affiliates, the events that are being promoted by affiliates, activism, and of course, get out the vote, candidate selection, ballot access, all the fun. We've got hundreds of libertarian affiliates around this country. Of course, we've got a principal affiliate in every state. We've got county, city, the choice, the selection, the work ethic, the diversity, the focuses are astonishing. And around the country, well, we're growing even more every week. Every week, every couple hours, it seems like somebody's popping up in a county in Indiana or Texas, or in this case, tonight we're going to talk to folks. Well, we're going to talk to the gentleman from Iowa. A couple of quick programming notes. First of all, our congratulations go out to Evan McMahon. He's the new chair of the Indiana Libertarian Party. And of course, let's not forget, go to the Alaskan LP page, the Alaskan Gold Rush, which is just coming up in a few weeks, which is going to be an astonishing event that, well, you don't have to go to Alaska. You could. I'd be jealous, but you could also participate virtually. 7 or 8 hours of intensive training on virtually every single subject, and an hour free right there in the middle. If you want to, from your own affiliate's perspective, promote education or training on a subject native or germane to your home environment. So tonight, we've got a very special guest. I got the opportunity to meet him virtually for the first time this week. He's jumping in at the last minute. We get, again, every week we've got little scheduling moves and conflicts and things like that. But somehow we pull it all together because of the great team that's surrounding the LP. Chairman Mike is joining us of the Libertarian Party of Iowa Chair. Chairman Mike, welcome. Welcome to the Libertarian Affiliate Spotlight.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate you having me on tonight. It was short notice, but you know what? We do a show ourselves for the LPIA, and I kind of know how that whole short notice thing works. So I'm glad I could help you guys out.
Well, no, and that's I'm thrilled. Despite all the conversation we had about a variety of movies that were based in Iowa and my experiences on the Iowan tundra, let's talk about Iowa tonight. It's a great affiliate, a proud affiliate. It's right there on the front lines of American politics. Iowa's, of course, well, at least it was last time, the first, if you will, presidential event in the nation. Have we heard from the former secretary, or whoever that poor guy was who suggested using that software? Have we heard from him ever since?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I've heard, at least, anyway.
He has yet to be seen. Well, let's talk about Iowa and the Libertarian Party. First of all, give us, if you will, a little bit of a political snapshot of Iowa. And again, most of us, in terms of its politics, see it through the prism of those first few weeks when it's a spotlight on the presidential election every 4 years. But we know it's a lot more diverse and a lot more complex than that. What's the political landscape like there look?
Right now, it's really interesting. We do, of course, have a rich history with the presidential race, but it goes beyond that. You take a look at the diversity that we have, and especially lately growing in Iowa, we're seeing more diversity. We're very much still a very red state. The GOP is running both the Iowa House and Iowa Senate. But you're seeing more growth in cities like Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and you're seeing those towns, those counties, very much going more towards the Democratic side. So we're seeing a lot of diversity happening, and that's a good thing. I think the diversity is fantastic. We need to have more diversity. So it's very interesting how things have changed just since I came on over to the Libertarian Party from the Republican side 6 years ago. So we have a lot of work to do from a libertarian standpoint, or trying to earn ballot access back. But overall, I think it's looking very promising, as long as the lawmakers can stop their meddling with everything.
Talk to us about ballot access, because we know you guys, folks have gone through your own trials and tribulations. Give us a history there.
Uh, Really going back on currently, there's two major stepping stones that we have to deal with. First of all, there was a change in the time frame in which candidates outside of the presidential race would need to file their petitions. They've changed, moved it, basically moving the goalposts as much as they can. And when I say they, it's mostly the Republican Party. Democrats have had their fair share of things that would impact us as well. But the Republican Party is having a heyday, moving the goalposts. It seems just a couple of years ago, they moved us so that we had to file in March rather than August, like we had in the past. Of course, they don't have to worry about that because they have the numbers to come to their conventions and be able to get everything needed in that regard. Recently, actually, just earlier this month, our governor signed into law an increase on our uh, ballot access signature requirements. We're going from 1,500 signatures, what we needed previously for president, governor, and U.S. senator. They're going to now need 3,500. And I think everybody who has worked with ballot access knows you don't just get 3,500 and call it good. You need to have a cushion there. So we're realistically looking at anywhere from 4,500 to 5,000 signatures.
Right.
On top of that, they're requiring at least 100 signatures from so many counties. From I believe it's 19 counties for the presidential, the gubernatorial, and the Senate race. So that's going to have a huge impact. Looking at this last year, I had an eye-opening experience as we were trying to get ballot access for Joe and Spike to get on here in Iowa, and we had people come out in I can't even begin to thank those volunteers that went out there. We had almost, I believe, 75% of our counties. We have 99 counties. I believe we had 75 or 76 of them represented by petitions. We had, I believe, 200 some people send in signatures or come out to events to help us get signatures because obviously with the COVID and everything that's been going on, it's been difficult. So we're looking at an interesting scenario here that's going to have a bigger impact in the future. Our goal, of course, is to hopefully be able to get 2% at least in the gubernatorial race in 2022. And I think that's very doable. I think we have a lot of great opportunities there, and we get to recruit a great candidate to be able to do that. There's no doubt in my mind we can get 2%. But it's definitely going to be, we definitely have our hands tied with the ballot access aspect.
I'm going to make two suggestions, and let me know what you think of these. I would ask everyone who listens to this show, and then to make this suggestion to everyone they know who's a libertarian, that every time you see one of these posts from the Democratic Party, from the rights of the world, all these folks virtue signaling about just how wonderful the Democratic Party is and how much they care about voter participation, that they take a moment to cite, whether it be New York State, Iowa, Texas, any one of the, let's just say, events that have been created by the duopoly specifically to disenfranchise voters. And I use that term because those are horrific charges if you're a Democrat right now, because we didn't know that, but they were saints who walk amongst us. And the reason why I use disenfranchise as opposed to ballot access is that ballot access is such a, we're used to it, but for most Americans, they just kind of look at it. But you say disenfranchise, and why are they disenfranchising us? Well, they can make all the efforts in the world, and I agree with them, to allow people an opportunity physically to vote. I have no problem with that. But at the same time, if you're going to limit the choices, then are we that much better? And I'm a little older than you, but are we that much better than, say, Brezhnev era Soviet Union, where socialist workers' paradise, you could vote for as often as you want, but you only had one choice. Are we that much difference, buddy? From your perspective, it's sitting in Iowa.
There really isn't much of a difference, and that's why you take a look at what we're fighting when it comes to fighting the duopoly, the Republicrats, however you want to call them. They very much play their games. If they're in power, they're going to be making some changes. And in all honesty, looking at this bill that was passed by the GOP, the Democrats came out in full force because it does disenfranchise Iowa voters. It had an impact when it came to absentee ballots, the timing that they can be turned in, the hours that are allowed at the ballot box on election day. There was a number of different things. County auditors can feeling more pressure from the Secretary of State and possible legal action taken on them if they're not following the rules in that regard. But there's a lot of things you can say about voter being disenfranchised. One thing the Democrats didn't bother stating was, oh, and look at these signature differences. They didn't care about that. I wrote multiple publications here in Iowa, and I did get a couple of my op-eds published, but people were not focusing on the ballot access because, like you said, they don't see that as an impact. That's not hurting them, so they do not care, which is ridiculous. What I would say that we can work together, but we definitely need to put some pressure on because, quite frankly, it is turning out to be that way where you have one or two choices. That's it. And if they had their way, that's what it would come down to. Fortunately for us, we have people like the hundreds of volunteers that we added on for Iowa here in the LPIA. We had at least started out the year with 150 volunteers. We ended up with 280 volunteers as of election day, registered volunteers in the Libertarian Party of Iowa. People like that. We have people that are going out there to try to make a difference. We have candidates that are putting their time, money, efforts into getting out there and getting the name Libertarian out and speaking to the issues that matter to the people. Because if they get the opportunity to hear the issues, there's no doubt in my mind that we can change minds and turn heads. We just need to have that opportunity. And quite frankly, like you said, Democrats, Republicans, they're one and the same. They're not going to let us have that easily. But fortunately for us, we have a good groundwork, and we're starting to see some changes, I believe, in the party as a whole, not just in Iowa, but really nationwide.
So let's talk about first the issues and that Iowans really care about, and then let's talk about the party structure and what you folks are doing to promote growth, to promote activism. First of all, every American should know that a proud alumnus of the state of Iowa is now he's Secretary Monsanto, Mr. Vilsack, isn't he?
Yes, it is.
We should be very, very proud. He serves alongside our failed governor, Gina Raimondo, who is incredibly enough the Commerce Secretary, despite coming from the worst business climate in America. Vilsack, obviously, like I said, is famous for his connections to Monsanto. But talk about the Iowan economy, because folks obviously focus on the agrarian side of it, corn. The years that I was traversing Iowa was for a completely different reason. It was for telecom and the importance, if you will, of Iowa in high tech and high tech communications. Talk about what economically is important to the state, where the state is now, and where you see potential.
Well, you're absolutely right. When it comes to the economics, it all comes down to corn, soybeans, the farmers that are building and working out here, working the land. That's obviously our biggest part of our economy. But we have a huge industry going on. You see growth in Des Moines, for example, insurance industry, the banking industry is starting to get very big here in Iowa, and they have been for the last decade or so. So we're seeing a lot of other things. You mentioned telecom. That's a big part of it. Obviously, environmental issues are an impact because we are trying to push windmills. We're talking, again, going back to agriculture, ethanol. Producing ethanol, and there are a lot of subsidies that get to go out to some of those people, and they benefit from that. And sadly, especially when it comes to farming, this local farmers, those century farms, people that have been farming the land for 100 years or even 20 years, I don't care how long you've been doing it, they're not getting the impact that companies like a Monsanto or farms that are corporate farms. Unfortunately, they're the ones that are seeing the benefits of those subsidies. And I think that when you're looking at the political structure, you're not going to have anybody outside of maybe the Libertarian Party that's going to frown on the subsidies, whether it's corporate, whether it's local, whatever it can be. If we want to help, absolutely, there's ways we can help. But Republicans, Democrats, they're the one and the same. They're going to be pushing for those subsidies because that is where the money ends up coming at here in Iowa.
So that's points out a perfect example of the challenges that libertarians face in a complex world. Excuse me. You've got this sort of death battle between subsidies, which are as an outsider, appears to be the backbone and the support structure for agriculture, which is critical to a state like Iowa. And yet, tariffs, subsidies, and you saw the interplay during the Trump administration between the damage tariffs could do and the resulting subsidies, and then the result of tariffs to pay for the, ultimately it all came down
it's a vicious circle.
No, and it ultimately all came down to, how much money we were going to borrow from the Chinese, from communist China, in order to subsidize this crazy trade/commerce/agriculture war. How do you guys dance that dance? Because that's got to be a challenge.
Well, a lot of it does go back to looking at corporatism versus privately owned farms. We obviously want to help out the farmers as much as possible. I think Larry Sharp gave a great idea up in New York State in regards to how the government can take some of the pressure off of the local farmers without having to give them the subsidies. For example, we have these people that are on Century Farms. They've been there for hundreds of years. They're paying massive taxes. They're still, they may still be paying taxes after from their grandparents. Maybe haven't paid taxes for years. Their grandchildren. So being able to, let's say you've been out there for, let's say you've been on the farm for 10 years. You own the farm. At some point, we need to be able to relax some of those taxes, be able to find ways that are creative to be able to produce and help these farmers, and not necessarily have to take it back to spending. And so I think we have a lot of opportunities. We can start allowing farmers relaxing some of the restrictions. Obviously, we want to watch out from an environmental standpoint, but I think the large majority of farms that's not a problem. You do have that, especially with hog farming and stuff like that here in Iowa. So there may be some restrictions in those regards. But quite frankly, the government telling us you can plant this, but you can't plant that. And yes, I'm talking about wheat. But they should not be forcing that on those farmers. A farmer should be allowed to grow and sell on their own what they want to be able to make that profit. The government is too restricting when it comes to that. So those are two different ways that the government can still help the farmers without actually going out and spending billions of dollars because of those tariffs that killed them last summer.
What structure does the LP in Iowa form? You've obviously got the state party. How well or how developed are, in fact, affiliates in Iowa?
We have, as of right now, we have 33 of our 99 counties that are affiliated. Obviously, we have our state central committee at the state level, but we are also growing a number of different parties, a number of different counties that are looking to grow as well. For example, I'm going to say Madison County. It's one of our, it's a suburb, or it's a county that's just off of Polk County, which is where Des Moines is located. They're working right now to be able to get it. We have a number of developing affiliates, people that are working to try to grow the party. Some of those blue counties that we're looking at right now, unfortunately, they became deactive. They're still affiliated, but they're just not active. So we're really trying to reach out and focus on getting outreach to those counties, grow those, add the new counties. And just since last year, like I said, I think we put on 5 or 6 brand new blue counties, plus all those green ones. Those are going to be the ones that are upcoming, and we're working on growing those as well.
Who in the executive committee, or who in a variety of levels, are actually responsible for going out and doing affiliate development?
We have district reps. There's 4 different districts in Iowa. Each one each one has a district rep assigned to them. So, for example, we have Shaden Wendler up in the 1st district. We have Dave Davis in the 4th district. We have a number of different those. Plus, we also have at-large reps as well. David Green is somebody who is absolutely fantastic and loves to get out to those events, try to grow those areas. So we get our district reps. Obviously, we have myself, our vice chair, that's been a major focus for us, and I think that we're starting to see the dividends, and especially over the last year or so of that. And you look at the volunteer status here in Iowa, how many volunteers we've increased. That right there has helped us grow some of these other counties and getting some more county affiliates excited, like Madison County. The people that are actually organizing Madison County, they're going through and working with different cities and that, but they started working to help us out with Joe and Spike and others, and Rick Stewart, who who ran for Senate last year. So that election helped us out greatly. So I'm really excited with the direction that we're going. And as a matter of fact, at our convention that's coming up in April next month, in just a few weeks, actually less than 3 weeks, we're going to have an outreach forum. And part of that focus is going to be how can we reach out to counties, cities, schools, colleges, be able to get some university affiliates, hopefully in that area. And we have a good basis, and we just need to make sure we keep on ball.
How does that same party structure, in turn, work on candidate development and what I like to call it Go TV, until I figured out one day it meant get out the vote?
When it comes to the candidate development, we are working on a number of different things that you're going to be announcing probably at the convention. I'm hoping to be able to help train candidates, but it's about doing that outreach and finding those people. If you're on the ground in the county and people are coming to your party and coming to your party meetings, that's where they get excited. That's where they get involved, and that's where they can be influenced to run. Right now, we're looking at city level elections coming up this November. So we're trying to recruit and work with people on that level. Not only that, but we're going to have a lot of signatures to get in 2022. So we need to start organizing and planning that as well. So a lot of our focus at that is at the county level, getting those people excited, keeping them engaged, keep them excited, and really work to be able to train them on how they can run, how they can help campaigns, and how they can help out when it comes to volunteering, like in signatures, and even just doing city cleanup like they're doing up in Lynn County, which is Cedar Rapids. They have an event coming up next week where they're doing a big city cleanup. They dealt with a derecho, I believe I pronounced that correctly, last year, and you'd be amazed at just how devastated the city became after that, and really how it still looks. It's still not cleaned up. The city hasn't gone through it. So we're going out there and making a difference at the libertarian level.
So activism is a key component to your plans now and going forward.
Absolutely.
And why, it sounds so easy when you're neck deep in it and you're doing projects in the community every week, but speak to a state like Iowa, where you've got some very important cities, as you pointed out, in terms of telecom, in terms of finance, insurance, despite what Americans typically associate as largely a farming state. And then you've got these widely spread out areas which are hard as heck to campaign in one sense, because you've got, it's not easy to go knock doors in Iowa. I've seen it firsthand. It just isn't easy. But speak to the importance of activism and the connection it draws with the community.
Well, you speak to the widespread counties, those ones that have a county seat of maybe 500 people or so, and that's about all you get. The rest of it's farmland. It is quite the challenge. And as a matter of fact, we were looking at the map county affiliates. That's been a big focus point, is trying to get out to those counties. My own county, Marion County. I'm in Knoxville, Iowa. We started our affiliate last year. We have a few smaller towns, and really it's widespread after that. So what we're trying to do is find ways and be creative on getting out to those people in those smaller counties. You look at the blue; they are really centered around major cities. The large majority of our county affiliates are around Davenport, Cedar Rapids, Council Bluffs, Des Moines. In those regards, we need to get out there and be able to recruit people, and that's what we're trying to do. When it comes from a candidate standpoint, that makes it even tougher. And one of the reasons why getting that, the county level signatures is going to be tough, because I can go out to Polk County and easily get 100 signatures that they're requiring for the presidential, gubernatorial, and Senate levels. But I can't say the same about some of the other counties outside of Ames, or I'm sorry, outside of Story, which is where Ames, Iowa State University is at.
Right.
Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, and those areas, you're going to be hard pressed to be able to get that. And it does make it difficult. Not that we can't. I think Jake Porter did a fantastic job, especially going up to the Northwest, which has been, is easily the most red area of the state and the least populated area of the state. And his campaign for governor back in 2018 did a fantastic job getting out to those counties and making yourself known. And we saw some great turnout up there. I think a lot of it is just getting out there and holding events. You don't even have to set up a party necessarily. It'd be great if we can get a county affiliate going, and hopefully it'll lead to that. But we need to lay some groundwork and be able to build from the ground up to be able to do that. So we need that foundation. So going to Harrison County, going to anywhere really in the Northwest, you're going to have to put in the work. Something that I keep going back to Madison County because I'm really impressed with the work they're doing out there. They've held 2 events so far in the last few months. One in the major city, Winterset, one in a rural city or town of Truro. They're going to be doing another one in another rural town. So they're doing that event to build that foundation before they start focusing on trying to get the party going and everything along those lines, doing elections, because that's where we get those volunteers and that's where we get people excited. And quite frankly, we're going to need that, like you said, in those rural areas during the elections.
Have you given thought to, and it's widely referred to as the Moulton Maneuver? We had Jen Moore on just a few weeks ago to talk about, on the candidate show, interestingly enough, to talk about the notion of going after these tiny, often neglected municipal positions. And of course, Jen spearheaded a lot of it, but Wes Benedict and of course Dr. Moulton were key components of the hard work done by a whole lot of party volunteers. Is that something that could work in a place like Iowa, where you've got small towns?
Without a doubt, and we're looking at it right now. We look at Decatur City. That's a town of, I think, 50 some people, or maybe even less. And down in the southern part of Iowa, south central Iowa. So we look at people like Amanda Swanson, Nathan Gentry. These are all, with the exception of maybe the Cedar Falls, Rob Green and Cedar Falls, and Nicholas Tabor, of course. Those are all smaller towns, and that's where we're going to see this succeed. Especially, another thing you'll notice looking at this is the partisan office. These years, right now, is where we build that foundation of officials. This is where we get that training in, and we start to grow that. Not only that, but I'm pretty proud of the position that I'm in. I ran for city council 2 years ago in 2019 here in Knoxville. Unfortunately, I didn't win, but it led to another step in helping lead libertarianism here in the city, and that's being on a board or a commission. I'm on the planning and zoning board here in Knoxville. So we can have an impact in areas like that to help spread liberty. It's a matter of getting people excited to do that, and hopefully giving them the support they need to be able to do so as well. And quite frankly, you look at towns all across Iowa. I don't care if it's 5,550 people. I don't care. There's more than likely an opening on some type of board, whether it's Parks and Recreation, Planning and Zoning, anything like that. It's going to give you experience, and it's going to make a difference in the community.
How about the media landscape? What are your challenges and rewards, and in terms of dealing with a large state geographically, relatively large, certainly compared to Rhode Island, but you've got, when I think of media markets, obviously I think of Des Moines, I think of Cedar Rapids. I think, there's something about wrestling in your state too. I don't know. They seem to, seem to be good at, but you think about the university seat, Ames, which of course, by definition, how is the relationship with the media been? Do you get a lot of coverage? How have you worked on that?
I think it's improved. Definitely getting out there and writing op-eds has helped greatly. I've had some great feedback from non-libertarians on some of the op-eds that I put out there. Getting out there in the media, they're being more open to it. I can remember a time when we'd be lucky to even get the name Libertarian in the Des Moines Register, which is the biggest publication, not arguably in the state. And they published 3 of my op-eds just in the last few months. So it's improving. However, it also, we are seeing that in the last year, candidates that aren't getting any attention, not able to get in the debates because they're not raising enough money. And that's some of the requirements that the media is putting out there. I think written publications, we're seeing some great improvements when it comes to televised media. That's where we need to be able to get out and get some name recognition. We're seeing it. We started seeing it during the election. We had a little bit of, some decent coverage during on a couple of our local, at least here in central Iowa, local channels for Joe and Spike. But we need to put the pressure on. Send those press releases out nonstop. If there's something exciting happening, let's get that press release out there so that way we can at least say we're putting in the effort, we're putting in the legwork. And this has been a fantastic time in regards to being able to get that name out because, unfortunately, yes, the new election law bill absolutely stinks, but they're listening and they're actually putting that out there and getting those op-eds out for us. So we're getting that information. I've really focused on trying to show the difference between the Libertarian Party and the duopoly in all of my op-eds. And a lot of that goes back to the ridiculousness that we see from the candidates and the fact that there has been no change essentially from either party here in Iowa in my lifetime. You're seeing them do the same, play the same games they always have. So I think that's a lot of it, just getting out there and forcing their hand to get those op-eds and get those press releases out.
Now, we had a young man on from Pennsylvania last week, 22-year-old, running for a special election in the State House district. And it reminded me what opportunities exist in the university landscape. Now, this young man, Andrew, and I apologize if I get the name wrong, it's Rhea, he's a university student. He's majoring in political science and journalism. He's done some internships already, and he's already proven to be a powerful voice at the college level, and we think he's got a great future for the LP. And there are students like that all over the country. Now, you've got 2 universities over there. I think, is it one of them black and gold too? Which one of those?
That'd be University of Iowa out there in Iowa City.
Right. So you've got Iowa City, and of course you've got the Iowa State. What have you seen much success there, and what efforts are you trying to make, at least at the university level, to get some of those kids before they go over to the other side?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we have had a great candidate up in Ames who was a professor at the University of Iowa State University this last election. He's run a few times, as a matter of fact, even for governor. But being able to get people like that out there, and hopefully as in a position where he can help those young blossoming libertarians create groups within it. I know that ISU, Iowa State University, has a libertarian group. I actually spoke to a couple of them that were fantastic in helping us get signatures up there at ISU. I think that really should be low-hanging fruit to be able to help us get our get some excitement growing in that. But we need to find those individuals that are out there. That is tough. And we have a number of people that have already reached out to us to help us do that. From a county level, it's one thing. To be able to get out to a university is another. We have smaller universities like William Penn out in Oskaloosa, Iowa, that has a libertarian chapter out there, and they're working to be able to get that going. So I think we have some great opportunities to grow in that. It's certainly been a challenge, and it will be a challenge, but we have a great number of individuals, especially up there at ISU and of course out there at William Penn, where we can see that growth and see it pay dividends already.
Now, I guess before we get into one of my favorite parts of the show, of course, is what I call shameless self-promotion. And we want to give you an opportunity where folks in Iowa or in other states could support your candidates and get a feel for what's going on in the great state of Iowa. The issue, as the pandemic has worn on, that is clearly in the craw, if you will, of of libertarians and civil libertarians everywhere is, of course, the shutdowns. A lot of folks sort of understood, were willing to kind of go along to get along early on. Is there pandemic exhaustion taking place in Iowa now at this point? And how has this state responded, and to what degree has the Libertarian Party seen fit to interject itself into the argument?
We've seen a lot of ups and downs since last March here in Iowa. We're technically open right now, according to Governor Kim Reynolds, and really it's improved. However, we've also seen that happen back in July when we're open, and then all of a sudden we're shut down again. So it goes around to where can we ensure that everybody gets the freedom they deserve in Iowa, to be able to go out there and make their choice, whether that be wear a mask,
Right.
whether not be wear a mask. Obviously, while respecting private business, private businesses want to go out there and allow, put a mask and require people to wear a mask. That's their business. It's not the government that's forcing them, and you can make that choice whether to go to that business or not. Whatever. My family, we choose to wear the mask at those businesses, but for the most part, we're out there pretty good. Obviously right now not wearing a mask at home, and we're not going to be wearing a mask when we don't need to. That's our choice. That's my choice. That's my family's choice. Fortunately, we are in a position in Iowa where the government has allowed us to make that choice. Largely there are still city mandates, but quite frankly, and when it comes to the city versus state mandates, that's going to be, I'd much rather have it at the local level if there is going to be one, but it's still something that we need to push the fight, because it is about individual rights, individual freedoms. Our liberties we prize, our freedoms we maintain. That's the state motto. So I think we've done a fairly decent job. Am I entirely happy with how we've handled it? Absolutely not. We could have done so much better. There's no reason to make businesses close down. Bars, not so much businesses, but bars close down at 10 o'clock. All of a sudden at 10 o'clock, does a virus come out more in force? So stuff like that is completely ridiculous. And it has really impacted the bottom line for a number of small businesses. Unfortunately, we're seeing it. We've seen it here locally in Knoxville. You're seeing it all over the state, all over the nation. And hopefully, with us opening up, we can start to see a little bit of turning around when it comes to that.
Do you think folks in Iowa, I look at the tragedy of this entire event. I have a lot of family in the New York City area who suffered disproportionately, particularly in the early stages of this. Do you think folks are becoming aware in the Midwest that the Libertarian Party and the libertarian principles underlying our party, our statement of principles, could have, if they had been in place prior to the advent of COVID-19, not prevented it, but certainly mitigated the terrible effects of it. And I'm talking about things like having more free enterprise interjected into the medical system, and so many of the reforms that have been brought about at so many cities across the country to mitigate the economic impact are so libertarian, and complete proof of concept, if you will, that our belief system does work on a day-to-day basis in government. Ironically, are folks starting to catch that sense in the Midwest?
I think you're starting to see that, especially when it comes, like you mentioned, when it comes to healthcare, the restrictions the government puts on for vaccines. We should have had stuff out long ago, long before November when the vaccines started rolling out. And I'm going to go ahead and make a call out to AJ there. He's our third district rep on the state central committee, and he's absolutely right. The tyranny of government has been on full display in 2020, and it's not just about masks. It's not just about mandates. It's about them restricting businesses and restricting things that are going to help us out as individuals. And I think the people in the Midwest are seeing that. I think we're seeing that up in Minnesota. We're seeing that here in Iowa. We're starting to see that, maybe not so much in Illinois. Illinois is very still left-leaning, but I can't speak for them. I can speak for Iowa here, and I do think that we are starting to shake things up. and make a difference here in Iowa when it comes to getting our message out and really making people understand this is what the Libertarian Party is about. We want to give you all your freedom and just leave you be. You can do what you want as long as you're not harming people. You're not in violation of the non-aggression principle. You're helping people. That's on you. You want to go ahead and smoke your weed while holding a gun and getting married to whoever you want. By all means, that's great. And I think people are starting to understand that here, and that's fantastic to see.
No, that's outstanding. I often preach that the free market and the mechanisms associated with that, in terms of the spirit of individual ownership, the spirit of disruption, the spirit of entrepreneurial activities, is in fact the mechanism by which the individual can reach their full human potential. As we see things start to be lifted, if out of just sheer exhaustion from the recurring failures of big government stepping on people's rights, not letting that opportunity go to waste, right? I believe this is proof of concept for the movement, and it's great to see that folks in Iowa are taking that personally and taking to the streets and taking to the local government. It's just impressive as hell as what you folks are able to do in a challenging time like this, where you've been able to get this type of spread over such a diverse political landscape at a time when so much of politics, so much of community stewardship is taking place behind closed doors, behind the duopoly, who are desperate to cover up their failures. Let's engage in some sheer shameless self-promotion. Tell us, folks, about folks where they can read about your comings and goings, their doings, particularly if you're in Iowa. Pay attention. If you're anywhere in the country and contemplating a move to one of the most beautiful parts of the nation, pay attention. And just because, you know what, there are brothers and sisters in Iowa, and they deserve our support, our love, and our respect, pay attention. Let her rip, buddy.
Absolutely. First of all, LPIA.org is our main website. You can go on there, read through our news. My biggest thing that I want to focus on is LPI.org/volunteers. Because as I've stated, I've pressed the issue multiple times in this show just tonight. We need to have volunteers. We cannot grow this movement in Iowa without people coming out to help us out. We have a lot of elections coming up. We need people that are going to be running for office, that are going to be helping those running for office. And not only that, but growing at the county level. There's multiple ways that you can volunteer. So that's my biggest thing, is getting out there and volunteering to help us out. Obviously, you can join the party. You can go to lpi.org/donate, be able to become a member, dues-paying member of the party for only $20. Obviously, we have a lot of work that's going to be going on over the course of the next couple of years. So any donations go a long way in getting us to that point. Last shameless plug that I want to put out there is for our upcoming convention, April 16th and 17th. We are having our convention at the hotel at Kirkwood Center up in Cedar Rapids. We're going to be starting out with a social at 6:30 on Friday night. And we're going to have our business meeting on Saturday. Plus, we have a number of great keynote guests. Our outreach forum, Ashley Shade is going to be there. Caitlin Cloven. Local libertarian Marco Battaglia is going to be speaking as well. Plus, with our outreach forum, we're going to be focusing on how we can reach out and grow the party and really focus on getting those volunteers. So if you want to go out there to our LPIA.org website, you can go to events, and you can go and sign up if you want to come out here to Iowa. We welcome everybody. And right now, it looks like weather is going to be fantastic. Crossing our fingers. You never know what's going to happen. It changes at a moment's notice. We could be having a snowstorm, and then all of a sudden we'd have sunny and 80 degrees. But it looks like right now we're kind of past that winter stage. And yes, there's another one I didn't mention. On the Friday night, we have it was the day after Theft Day due to the tax deadline. The federal government, our overlords, were nice enough to allow us to go wait another month on the federal taxes. But we're still going to do it because, let's face it, when it comes to the government, every day is Theft Day for them. Dan, Taxation Accept's going to be hosting it. We will have additional speakers that are going to be announced as well. It's a lot of exciting stuff. I'm excited for it. This is my first convention that I get to fully chair, and it's been quite an experience. So get out there. Hopefully you can join us. And obviously, if not, anything you can do to help us out to be able to fight the duopoly here in Iowa would be greatly appreciated.
Excellent. Mike Connor, aka Chairman Mike of the Libertarian Party of Iowa, bringing us up to date with everything, literally everything that's important in Iowa. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Nothing but love, nothing but respect, nothing but the best of wishes as you continue the battle. It is an honor for all of us, if you will, to be on the same field of political battle as you are. This time of crisis, it's critical that every one of us across the nation, literally, I'll spare you the sports analogies, but I think leaving it all on the field is probably the best way to say it. You know, our civil liberties across the nation are at stake, our personal liberties, our access to free markets, our access to a life that we would control, that we would design, that would be ours, is at stake right now, nothing less. So it's absolute pleasure to spend time with you this evening. And as always, give all of our love to everyone in the great state of Iowa. Thank you so much.
You bet. It's my pleasure. And thank you for doing stuff like this, bringing attention to affiliates all across the nation. I think this is fantastic.
All right, buddy. Have a great night. Folks, Friday night, we'll be back with the Candidates Corner. And we've already got an outstanding guest. John, you want to come on the line for a second? Who's joining us?
Do I want to come on the line?
Yeah,
Hello, Pat.
I want to introduce someone to the crowd here. John Gapso is the gentleman behind the big board. He volunteers a couple of nights a week, coming directly from work to join us. We've got a program set up for Friday night. We've actually got it early for once. Tell us just a little bit about it.
Well, you just sent me the info earlier, and I'm tracking it down right now. We have Trevor Riley, who is running for office in Lincoln, Nebraska, this Friday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. And the disembodied voice of John Gapso, the producer, says you don't want to miss this. 9 p.m. Friday night, LPTV, Libertarian Party, Facebook and YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Don't miss it. Great,
John. Thank you so much. And I just had to say on the air, it would not be possible to do these shows with your effort. You're a hero. After a full day at work, you join us, you provide all the graphics, all the fun facts, all the links, and you just put it all together. So thanks again, John.
You're very welcome, Pat.
Folks, again, as always, you tonight have been listening to our programming dedicated towards and focused on affiliates, if you will, here in the Libertarian Party. We call it the Libertarian Affiliate Spotlight. It's a production of the Libertarian Party Affiliate Support Committee. Valerie Sarwak, of course, is chair. And of course, the Libertarian National Committee, Joe Bishop Henchman, serving as chair. As always, John on the big board. I've been your host, Pat Ford. Look forward to seeing you Friday night. Have a wonderful week. Night.